Good morning. Welcome to this special discussion on sociology of development. This discussion relates to our MA program in sociology, specific to the course MSO 003 Sociology of Development. As a student of sociology, you must have been encountering the term development from the very inception of your introduction to this discipline of sociology. We understand development has been a major concern for the sociologist, and we usually consider sociology as a study of social progression. In the whole gamut of social progression, we take into cognizance varieties of these vocabularies that denotes several processes like change, development, evolution, progress, transformation, mobility, and so many others. Sociologists' interest in sociology of development obviously linked to the area of sociology, rather historical sociology. Here we have to make a distinction that when you are talking about historical sociology, while studying sociology of development, we are not trying to study history, we are not doing history. Rather, we are trying to use the historical material to know the whole process of progression of human society from early stage to that of another. Whatsoever development human society had, it was widely revolutionized and went for a faster change with the introduction of Industrial Revolution, followed by Renaissance and the Enlightenment. Within the whole process of Industrial Revolution, we have seen it has brought a wide variety of change in the society, in its institutional arrangement, in its social processes, also in the regular activities of human beings through which they relate themselves to the society. We have seen the whole progression of human society from the stages of savagery to barbarism, barbarism to civilization. We have seen the progression from the primitive to the modern stage, from the agrarian to the industrial stage, from ancient to the feudal to the capitalist stage, from the tradition to the rational stage, and what sociologists already now talking about from a local to a global stage of development. Now, when you have seen it, we have seen it from varieties of the angle. One of the important angles of looking at this has been evolutionary perspective to understand sociology. And when you are talking about evolution, we have spoken about the evolution, how it is human society getting unfolded from one stage to that of another. We have also taken another stage, we call it progression, that is a step forward. And the progression, it takes into consideration another dynamics, that is the dynamics of development. Development, we call it in terms of a human-induced activities that takes the human society to one stage to another. In this stage also, we have taken into consideration that development has been conceived as a growth, and growth has been conceived as a total gross domestic product, we call it GDP. Now, when you are talking into consideration development as economic growth, we have also taken into consideration how development is intersecting with the whole process of social inclusion and exclusion, because we will not be talking about economic development, we will talk about how the people of the society becoming the stakeholders of development. That is what we use the term inclusive development. So that we will talk about a little later. Let me go one step further, how development has been classified by the sociologist, especially from the evolutionary perspective. The founding father of sociology, Auguste Comte, he has seen sociology as social statics, that is the institutional arrangement. He has also seen the society in terms of social dynamics, that is talking about various stages of development and change in human society. He talked about the society progresses. It is progresses from the stage of theological to metaphysical, metaphysical to scientific. Then how he has talked about the theological stage, where everybody tries to think in terms of its relationship with certain spirituality, certain kind of unforeseen phenomena, they tried to put it a supernatural thing. Gradually, as the human society, rather human mind developed, they started thinking it in terms of metaphysics. That is, those phenomena are not supernatural, they are natural phenomenon. Flood is a natural phenomenon, it's not a supernatural phenomenon. Epidemics is a natural phenomenon, not supernatural phenomenon. There came. Ultimately, as human mind developed, so also human society, they started talking about there is a scientific reason behind the flood, disaster, epidemic, everything. So they started developing giving a scientific explanation for the each and every development. So in doing so, society also gradually developed. At August Comte talked about it developed, rather progressed from a military stage to that of an industrial stage, from industrial stage to the positive scientific stage. So he has seen a kind of a progression. Let us see another evolutionarist, Morgan. Morgan widely talked about human society progressed from savagery to barbarism and barbarism to civilization. And what he has talked about, all process of development has been linked to the production process, and that is it means of subsistence. And by acquiring subsistence, that when human beings are in a position or are in a position to control the subsistence, they have proven their supremacy on the earth, that other human creature also on controlling the nature. So what Morgan was pointing out, the whole process of transition of human society, evolution of human society from savagery to barbarism, barbarism to civilization is widely guided by human capacity to control over the subsistence, how they control the means of subsistence, what we call about subsistence in terms of the food requirement, in terms of shelter, in terms of clothing and comfort. That thing will come slightly later. Another important evolutionary theorist, we can call him evolutionary because he talks about the evolution and the progression of the society in terms of progression from the Asiatic stage to ancient stage to the feudal stage to the capitalist stage, and it is moved by class struggle. What Marx's theory of social transformation is based on his economic determinism. He talked about the man basically a producing animal. By producing, he enters a distinctive variety of work relationship with other category of the people in the society. In the process, it controls the productive resources. The society get divided between two categories, the owners of the sources of production and the non-owners of the sources of production. And this owning and non-ownership of this material, that creates contradiction in the society, and through that contradiction, society advances from ancient stage to the feudal stage, from feudal to the capitalist stage, and from capitalist, what he has talked about, a kind of a socialistic state. Ultimately, he talks about the communistic state. He has also talked about the Asiatic modes of production, a model of social evolution. By Asiatic modes of production, he has specifically identified the societies of China and countries of Indian subcontinent, where he has marked that despite varieties of transition, these societies, they have not changed at all, because the economic relationship has been totally based on non-contradictory elements. That is, one was dependent on another. Ultimately, this dependency has not contributed much to develop contradiction. So since there was no contradiction, ultimately that progression was very minimal. In the whole gamut of development, what Marx has talked about transition of the society from one class to another, he talked about if we are to understand the societal transition, we have to understand the transition in terms of class character of the society. He talked about changing from class in itself to class for itself. That is, class in itself, a category of the people having common economic position against another, and they are a category of the people, they can distinguish it from the others. But this category of the people, class in itself, is not mediated by class consciousness. When it acquires class consciousness, it takes the form of a class for itself, that's a class ready for social action. that is a category of the people having common economic position vis-a-vis the others, but having the consciousness to always war, to always struggle against the other. So ultimately leads to transition of the society through class struggle. So we are having another important evolutionarist, that is Herbert Spencer. Herbert Spencer theory of widely guided by, what he used the term social organism, widely guided by Charles Darwin's The Origin of the Species. And he talked about the society gradually progressed from the simple to the complex society. That the very simple society that was founded on the clan, that the family, then when the family expanded to the clan, gradually clan, it became to tribe. From tribe, it becomes a kind of a compound society, that is, it led to the state. Then state also varieties of the from military to the industrial, and ultimately he talks about the whole growth of the economic development through industrial revolution, that is the growth of laissez-faire theory. So we'll talk about the laissez-faire a little later. What Herbert Spencer tried to explain social progression in terms of from a simple to the compound society, the family to clan, then the compound to triply compound society, that is from tribe, clan to the state society, and gradually within the state also we find gradually moving from the military to the industrial society and giving to the birth of a laissez-faire theory, a theory of the free trading. Tony is widely talked about in the sociology of development in terms of Gesellschaft and the Gemeinschaft. Gesellschaft is a kind of a traditional society founded on natural condition where the family, marriage, kinship are the common interest. It gradually transformed into Gemeinschaft. It is that informal relationship widely guided by the production relation of efficiency, that is in terms of self-interest, and also guided by individualism. As the society progresses from one stage, that is the early stage of primitive steps, to the modern stage, it comes from the Gemeinschaft, get transformed into Gesellschaft. So it is important that he used this two important term in terms to describe the transition of the society. The classical sociologists like Emile Durkheim, Max Weber, Talcott Person widely use the social transition as sociology of the development in their own perspective, from their own perspective. Durkheim has talked about the transition of the society from mechanical solidarity to organic solidarity. For him, a society is to be understood in terms of solidarity, in terms of manifestation of the concreteness of a group that is founded on the moral beliefs and a kind of a moral consciousness. So what he talked about the early society, it was a kind of a society quite homogeneous. It is founded on what he used the term mechanical solidarity. Then it proceeded to the organic solidarity that is widely founded on sophisticated division of labor, where nobody can replace nobody, everybody is having a specialized job. So if a society progressed from what he used the term from mechanical solidarity to organic solidarity. Further development in the sociology of development, further intellectual development in the study of sociology of development took place with the study of Max Weber. He talked about societies gradually progressing from traditional to the modern society, the traditional to a rational society. What he talked about, it is through the process of rationalization of the thoughts and action, people can be rational and society can progress. So what he talked about, that is in the earlier society, widely based on certain values, norms and customs, those were the traditional, and when human society acquired a kind of a sophistication in understanding the social processes, used those sophistication in terms of rationality, that is calculability, observability and predictability. When those things came into the process, society gradually transited from the traditional to the what you use the term, the rational society. As an example, we use the term that religion belongs to our traditional domain, the traditional domain of our beliefs, our values, our norms, that is founded on certain inherited tradition. But those traditions can be rationalized. Once those are rationalized, it can give birth to the rational processes. Those rational processes may be reflected in terms of development of capitalism. The rational processes may be developed in terms of the exercise of authority. That rational processes can also be reflected in terms of exercise of authority, that is the bureaucracy. So here some of the example from Max Weber's, we can usually cite that how he talked about, that is through the rationalization of the religious thought, that is the Protestant ethics, it has rationalized its thought process in terms of calling. The calling it talks about, that is the Puritan sect of the Christianity. They are born with certain specific ideals, and when those ideals are rationalized, it gave birth to the capitalism in the society. The rationalistic thought, they take into consideration, traditionally they are taken into the position is that a human being is born on this earth with the blessing of the God. God has given them certain duty. This is to beautify this earth. This earth can be beautified only by earning money. One can earn money only by doing the hard labor and becoming sincere to one profession. And to becoming sincere means that you may take loan, but you will return the loan with interest. You will indulge into business, but you will share the profit for the further investment. So gradually what you are doing, you are rationalizing your each and every action. Through rationalization of every action, you are rationalizing the religious thought, and ultimately you are contributing to the whole process of the growth and development of capitalism on the society. What he has taken the position is that if human society is to be progressed, it is to be founded on certain materialism. That materialism is not simply materialism as an end in itself. Materialism is also guided by certain means. That means is that it is a vehicle founded on rationalization, so on thought and action. That is something we talked about Max Weber. Now we go further to Talcott Person, how Talcott Person has talked about that the whole world is an evolutionary process and it is becoming a part of an evolutionary universe. He used the term the evolutionary universe. In this evolutionary universe, human societies are changing from simple society, that is a society founded on gathering and hunting, community living and animism, that is nature worship of religion and the magic. The society gradually shifts from simple society to the archaic society, that is an intermediate society. Here gradually occupational specialization comes in, state formation takes place, and state try to control the human behavior. So it has a kind of an intermediate category. After this intermediate category, there is a process of a modern formulation of a modern society. That is what he has taken here, help of the Western society, the contribution of the Western society towards the humanity, that contribution has come, that modern state has formed, the rationality has formed with the Industrial Revolution and the French Revolution of 1760s. Then we find the American Industrial Revolution 1760s, then American Revolution 1765, and the French Revolution 1779, and gradually through this process, gradually so many modern institutions came in along with the state, that is the money came into being. Money became the modes of transaction, social transaction. It replaced the barter system. Then came the banking. Then came the bureaucracy. So we found the whole process of revolution took place in the development of human institution, and those development gave birth to transition of the society from one stage to another. Now, so far we have seen this development is taking place. In the development, there have been intersectionality among the various institutions in the society. So many societal institutions. Religion is a societal institution. We have said family is a social institution. Kinship are the social institution. And those institutions gradually shifted, and they have helped from amongst that. It is not that those institutions are replaced. They have retained. But simultaneously, there has been the development of the state, a modern state. Based on territory, a government, the sovereignty, states are formed. And gradually within the state, we found there has been the whole process of expansion of the market because capitalism has grown. Capitalism needs markets. So earlier, the development, the growth was localized. When there was a growth of capitalism, the growth become worldwide. So there was development of market, growth from the local to the national level market. Ultimately, it became a global market. So when we are talking about the development, sociology of development, we have to take into cognizance how sociology developed, how society developed from early stage of savagery to barbarism to civilization. That is a societal development. Within that, there has been a state formation, there has also been a market formation. And when we are taking into consideration, we have to take the interrelationship, the changing perspective of relationship between the society, state and market. Here Carl Polanyi, in his famous book, The Great Transformation, he has widely talked about how society transited from its early stage through market intervention and through the state intervention. What it talks about in the pre-industrial society, society was self-regulated. It was regulated by itself. It was embedded in itself, in performing most of the societal function by itself, becoming self-regulated. It was a frame of a pre-capitalist society. As the society developed, there has been gradual progression of the market forces. In the self-regulated society, the society was regulating the market. But as the production process increased, market started gradually controlling the society. What happened? There became, earlier it was the society in which market was embedded. Gradually it was the market in which markets trying to embed the society in it. A transition started taking place. Society became what Carl Polanyi talks about, that is a market-regulated society, market-embedded society. And in the whole process, that was the first great transformation took in human society, when society got transited from self-regulated to a market-regulated society with the expansion of capitalism in the human society. So in this market-regulated society, market started looking for business not only within the local area but also within the national territory, and at times started going beyond the national territory. Ultimately, with the expansion of capitalism and development of the market, capitalism started growing and colonialization took place, and colonial forces became a force. They started controlling the market and the countries from one to another. We have seen the expansion of the Western colonialism gradually to the eastern part of the globe, and how they colonized most of the countries of the eastern part of the globe, because it was not only a political desire to rule, it was also an economic desire to expand the market. Gradually market expansion took place. But when the Great Depression took place in late 1920s, in this Great Depression, earlier it was controlling the market. Market was deciding what the state will do. But that time what has happened, a new philosophy started coming in. It was a depression. There was a huge unemployment in the society. People are suffering from low economic growth. And how it is to be addressed. Then the whole idea came for a welfare state. A new deal came in the American society. It spread also in the other parts of the globe. That state will take care of certain welfare activities, that is health and education. Also state will try to give employment, because employment, by giving employment, state will be able to generate demand. When there is a demand, there will be industrial production. So there will be a circular relationship between the demand and supply, and when there is more demand and more supply and more demand, gradually there will be more and more GDP. And what we find, a new kind of phenomenon took place with the proliferation of the welfare state, and that continued till late 60s. What we talked about, the Carl Polanyi talks about the second great transformation in human society. What has happened till that time? That gradual expansion of the welfare state. But what happened? The welfare state also started getting a new kind of challenges starting from 1980s, widely misplaced. a new kind of capitalism started coming in the society. We call it neoliberal capitalism. The market started dictating its own kind of command on the state. The Washington consensus gradually came in. The WTO GATS came in because the new kind of a business framework started coming in, and what we find, the Western capitalism again started flourishing in its own way, and gradually what we found, the tripolar world, what was taking place, the first world. First world was a capitalist world that was guided by the NATO state, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, spearheaded by America and its allies. So that was one state. The second state was the communist state bloc, that is Russia, that is the communist bloc were there. The Warsaw Group usually talked about. That was the second world. The third world are the developing countries. So three varieties of the countries, three economic perspective was going on. The capitalist world, the socialist world, and also the mixed kind of a world, that is the third world. But what happened in 1990s, there was the collapse of the Russian system, the communist world collapsed with the whole flow of expansion of capitalism. The Berlin world again collapsed. And what we find, there have been the victory of capitalism over the socialism and enormous flow of capitalism across the globe. So Fukuyama widely talked about the end of history and the last man. What was talking about, the world has come in a circular way. It started from capitalism, the laissez-faire theory. Gradually, the laissez-faire theory is an open market theory. It was getting subsided. It was getting subsided by the emergence of the welfare state, and ultimately welfare state has been subsided by the emergence of neo-capitalism, economic liberalism. So he talked about the circular movement of the society. So if we were to take into cognizance what kind of development our society has encountered, we have to take into consideration that developed from the pre-market state to a market-oriented state. Within the market-oriented state, we find a kind of a pre-capitalistic market, capitalistic market, then the welfare market, then the neoliberal economic market. So society's transition, that in terms of economic transformation of the society. So these are some of the biggest lessons the development sociologists should take into cognizance. Now we will go into, that is what has happened, the whole developmental process with the whole expansion of starting from early 80s onward, because it was widely considered that if a society is to develop, it should develop its gross domestic product. And it is to be a gross domestic product, the one is to increase productivity. How productivity is to be increased? It is to be increased with the industrial investment in the industry, and with the investment of the industry, there will be expansion of the market economy, and there will be more profit. So the whole theory was a market, the economic determinism, that productivity, expansion of the market economy, the industrial growth and the profit, and it will be a circular kind of a thing, it will keep on going. So here it was talked about development as an end in itself, because you need development for the sake of development. If development takes place, other element of the society, that is unemployment, poverty, those will be taken care of. So that was a kind of a circular, a cyclical theory widely recognized at that point of time, and it take into consideration modernization and industrialization to the panacea of all social ills. If these are to be done away with, these are to be taken into consideration. Then there came the whole process of social imbalances. It started coming in with the high industrial growth in some parts of the world and less industrial growth in some parts of the world. We found enormous economic inequality, but along with this inequality, we find the countries, those who have been able to accumulate wealth, enormous the process of consumption. That consumption led to enormous pollution in the society, because when you will consume, because you need the consumer product. If you want to produce something, you need energy. What is the energy? You need electricity. If you are to have electricity, then you are to have the coal and the other natural gas, etc. like this. So once you are burning coal, ultimately you are contributing to the CO2, that is more and more carbon emission. The more you are consuming, more you are contributing to the pollution, and once you are contributing to the pollution, you are contributing to the environmental distraction. So ultimately it got widely linked. So that is the consumption, pollution and environmental distraction coming in one place. It also simultaneously contributed, while there was a prosperity on the one part of the world, there has returned the poverty and unemployment in other parts of the world, and we find increasing kind of family and social disorder that came into the society along with the industrial growth, industrialization, and the whole modernization process. So this is also part of sociology of development. We are not only talking about the economic development in the society, we are talking about how along with economic development, varieties of other social ailments came to the society in terms of pollution, poverty, unemployment, social disorder, and environmental distraction. We'll come little later how it has affected different varieties of the people in the society in different ways. Now, what we find that is, as we told earlier, that is, we have seen that is there is the emergence of market capitalism, there has been emergence of colonialism, there has also been a process of decolonization process. Because if we are to understand the sociology of development, we are also to understand sociology of political development of in this world. Along with market capitalism, there was the expansion of capitalism. India has been the victim of Western, the British colonization. Out of a 200 years of independence struggle, India got the independence, so it has decolonized. India has decolonized itself. So we find that the whole process of progression, the sociology of development, is also linked to the study of sociology of development of capitalism, development of colonialism, demise of colonialism, and the emergence of decolonization, and so emergence of sovereign independent nation state. So that thing maybe we will not get much of a chance to talk about the emergence of independent nation state, the nationality and ethnicity question, that maybe we'll take some other discussion will take care of. But this part we should take cognizance of, that is market capitalism, colonization and decolonization are the important component of sociology of development. So when we have seen the capitalist world, we have seen the capitalist world widely emphasized the private ownership of property, industrial growth. They founded their development on this part. Although the capitalist world widely tried to talk about the controlling of new and new market in the other parts of the world. Then we have seen the socialist world. The socialist world talked about centralized planning, abolition of private property, and also the distributive justice to be taken into consideration. Then we are having the third world, as I told earlier. Third world is widely founded on mixed economy, and all these societies ultimately, in the conventional term, both the capitalist society, the socialist society, even the mixed economy, the world, that is the third world, widely emphasized modernization, industrialization and economic growth to be the panacea of all social ailment till 1990s. Now, when we are talking about the sociology of development, also we have to take cognizance of how within the whole political development, whole process of decolonization, whole process of capitalistic development, there has been also the development of citizenship right. There has been the nationality question, there has been the ethnicity question, there has also been gradual evolving of citizenship right in the society. What is the citizenship right? Citizenship right is a legal entitlement of a citizen, of a member of a state. That is what it is legal entitlement and the duties to perform for the society. Marshall has widely reviewed that the whole development of citizenship as a part of sociology of the development has not been a one-day phenomenon. It has evolved over a period of time. That is a human society, human being. Initially they fought for the civic right, several civic rights they should have. The civic right when in terms of gathering together, marching together, they should be together. That's civic right coming to the public forum. So it started in the 18th century. Then in the 19th century, those rights, people started claiming more of a political right because they should also right to vote. Because democracy started setting in, they started coming for the democratic rights. Ultimately, democratic rights, that is, came right to vote. It was further enlarged, expanded to the social rights. That is, what is social right? Right to development, right to livelihood security, right to employment, right to justice. So gradually human society evolved. The sociology of the development also talks about how human society evolved from right, that is from civic right to political right to social right. Gradually those are evolving. And out of this evolving of the human rights, that is the social rights, the part of citizenship, we find the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that everyone to have an economic, social and cultural right as an inseparable aspect of development. If human beings are to be inseparable part of development, then United Nations is to recognize, and all the members of the United Nations will recognize that every citizen should have the economic, social and cultural rights. Simultaneously, United Nations also talks about International Convention of Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, 1966. It authorizes the state to ensure economic, social and cultural development. That is, you should not have only a mention in the constitution or in the charter, these are your rights. The state is empowered. State is given the right and duty to ensure that the citizenship's right, economic, social and cultural rights are already ensured. Then also came gradually evolved in 1986, that is right to development. That is, it is not the development of the state. Citizenship also, every citizen also should have the right to development. How it talks about? Everyone is entitled to participate in and contribute to economic, social, cultural and political development in which all human rights to be recognized as fundamental freedoms, and these are to be fully realized. The important part is that it is not only we are talking about the citizenship right in terms of evolution of certain document, it's also kind of an assurance that a human being, along with other right to vote, they will have also right to employment, right to social security, right to cultural freedom, right to political expression, so a right to all human rights. So these are total component of sophistication of human thought, sophistication of political journey of human being, that it has made a journey from the early days of primitivism to that of enlightenment, when we are talking about how development can be total fulfillment of human being in the society. That's why in 1990s, when we found the first human development report came, it widely pointed out that though there has been a wide mention in the constitution everywhere, all over the world, all citizens are equal, and there has been enormous process of economic development, but those development has been ruthless. It is ruthless because it has not taken cognizance of the sentiment, cultural, political rights of the people. It has been ruthless. And it's ruthless, simultaneously jobless. All development should create the job, so it has not been created sufficient job. A huge number of the people has been unemployed. So it has been voiceless. The development has been so coercive, it has not allowed the people to express their voice, their discontent. It also talked about the futureless because it has destroyed the environment. It is a futureless development. It is also a rootless development because development has not taken cognizance of the indigenous values, norms and customs through which form the part of the human habitat. So what is happening? Earlier developmental perspective only emphasized on growth for the sake of growth only, not taken into consideration growth for the proliferation, expression of human being. So here we are talking about a paradigm shift in the developmental perspective that will take cognizance of all those varieties. What this new perspective of human development, it is talking about, you have to put human being at the center of all development, to give them the choice and freedom and their capacity building, and that development is to be considered the development as a freedom and a happiness. So it is not simply you develop in terms of earn money, you also have the development for the fulfillment of yourself. Development is considered as a kind of a freedom, because you get to, when more and more development is there, you can have the choices. Through the development is not only economic development, development of human faculties that have the capacity to question each and every formation of the society, and it becomes an epitome of questioning each and every formation, and takes the position is nothing is unquestionable, everything can be questioned within the legitimized framework of the social and cultural formation of the society. Development we also talk about in terms of happiness. It is not only acquiring money and the wealth, but also it talks about the what kind of happiness even contributes towards the happiness of the people, how closely they meet, how closely they love, how closely they go outing. So it's a kind of a total expression of a human well-being in the society, it takes into consideration. So what we find, we have found now, this has been the whole process of developmental discourse. It is talking about development as freedom and development as happiness. When those are the philosophical foundation, we also find simultaneously expansion of neoliberal economic globalization after the collapse of the control and command economic state to the communist state, and also we find a new adjustment, new structural adjustment program in terms of the Washington Consensus given by the World Bank, International Monetary Fund and others. They have prescribed, these are the business framework within which somebody is to some state, member state are to undertake the business. And so there is a framework that is widely defined. And this framework has come in terms of WTO and the GATT. And WTO and GATT is not independent of the whole developmental perspective which you are talking about. There has been simultaneous development of World Development Summit 1995. It talks about you need not think development not only in terms of economic growth, also think of in terms of involving people within the developmental perspective of the state. For the first time they use the term development should be a process of consensitization of human beings that lead to their empowerment. So empowerment is a process that is a process of sharing of the power, a process of sharing with the other developmental initiative of the state should be part of the developmental initiative of the state, where all citizens will be the equal stakeholder of the development. So we find, along with this development perspective, the whole developmental paradigms of the society has also shifted technologically. Starting from 90s onward, we find an enormous proliferation of information and communication technologies. That is, earlier most of the GDPs of the industrialized state and the developed states was coming from industry. Now we gradually shifting of the economic forces from the industrial economy to a service-driven, knowledge-based economy. How it has taken place? Because industrial product and industrial development took a second line. What came in the forefront, what has come in the forefront, that is the information communication technologies, computer, internet and others. And this has expanded the growth of capitalism across the globe without the border, creating a new framework of the knowledge economy. That is, knowledge, it has not remained an individual domain. Knowledge has become a source for the production and generation of wealth in the society, and it is mass produced for the generation and wealth of employment in the society. So what we find a paradigmatic shift from industrial society to a knowledge society through ICTs, and it has created a new kind of tension in the society, new kind of market determinism and new phase of development. What we call it, a kind of we have shifted from growth-oriented development to social and human development. So what we are taking into consideration, if we take into Indian perspective, we have seen that is the fundamental rights that has been enshrined in our constitution, in the part 3 of our constitution. It talks about what the fundamental rights of the citizen. Simultaneously, it also right to development. It is already elaborated, advise the state in its directive principles of the state policy, part 4 of the Indian constitution. Initially, India started the centralized planning and industrialization to varieties of the social reform process. We found that within the whole process now, a developmental shift has taken place, and within this developmental perspective, that earlier in the 50s till 1960s, the enormous slogan was that is the growth for development. That is, if you need development, you need growth. So it talks about the grow more food. It talks about the heavy industrialization from the second 5-year plan itself. Then we find from the 60s onward, after the proliferation of varieties of the people discontent in various parts of India, the slogan became development with justice. So even varieties of the developmental programs started pumping in various parts of the country. Then we started from 80s and 90s, we started talking about, Indian state started talking about development with empowerment. The slogan has been, if development is to take place, it should be with empowerment. Now, starting from 1990s onward, the state of India is talking about development with inclusion. That is, if you are to develop, then each and every stakeholders of the society is to be included. What are those stakeholders? The scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, women, other backward classes, the slum dwellers, etc. They will be part of this development. So I'll come in the second lecture of mine, immediately after this lecture, how it is taking place. So we find that society has experienced two things: a political dynamics, change in the political discourse of development. Simultaneously, there has been varieties of the developmental initiative. But within this developmental initiative, we have found there has been enormous productivity on the one hand. Then we find sustained hunger of a huge number of the people on this earth. There has been economic growth on the one hand, there has also been vulnerability of a huge number of population on the other. There has been prosperity of section of the population and downward mobility on the other. There has been digital development of the country, there has been digital deprived on the other. There has been a category of the people in the position of command, political powerful, there has also been politically powerless, another huge segment of the population. So what we find within this developmental deformities, there has been growth with unemployment, burden of illiteracy, child labor and child marriage, growth of urban slums, industrialization with displacement, gender discrimination, then criminalization of politics, violence and extremism, and increasing number of places of worship, along with the increasing number of crimes in the society. And when there is a developmental and those who are responding to water, forest and livelihood security. And we found that along the whole process, there have been new interests and new identities, and there has been enormous resurgence from the below. And within this resurgence, another developmental anomaly is that the Constitution of India has tried to look into the process of construction of liberal citizenship, there has also been simultaneous propagation of nativity and primordiality in the society. So we find along with development, there are varieties of developmental deformities and discontent in the society. A sociologist of sociology of development must take cognizance of all those varieties of deformities, those are taking place in our society regularly, and one should be conscious of making all those phenomena, to bring all those phenomena in the public domain and look into intersectionalities along with development and deformalities. So I'll thank you for being with this lecture. And should you have any question, you log in www.ignou.ac.in, and also in our Facebook site, you can post question there, and I'll be very happy to answer all of your questions. Thank you.